You are listening to the Classical Mythology Podcast presented by LearnOutLoud.com. With this series, we will investigate the characters and events that form the bedrock of belief in the ancient Western world. For more podcasts you can learn from, please visit our website at www.learnoutloud.com/podcast. Thank you for listening.
Zeus. The greatest of the Olympian gods, and the father of gods and men, was a son of Cronos and Rhea, a brother of Poseidon, Hades, Pluto, Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, to whom he was married. When Zeus and his brothers distributed among themselves the government of the world by lot, Poseidon obtained the sea, Hades, the lower world, and Zeus, the heavens and the upper regions. But the earth became common to all. Later mythologers enumerate 3 versions of Zeus in their genealogies, 2 Arcadians and 1 Cretan. The first is said to be a son of Aether, the second of Coelus, and the third of Saturnus. This accounts for the fact that some writers use the name of the king of heaven who sends dew, rain, snow, thunder, and lightning for heaven itself in a physical sense. According to the Homeric account, Zeus, like the other Olympian gods, dwelt on Mount Olympus in Thessaly, which was believed to penetrate with its lofty summit into heaven itself. He is called the father of gods and men, the most high and powerful among the immortals, whom all others obey. He is the highest ruler, who with his counsel manages everything, the founder of kingly power, of law and order, whence Dis, Themis, and Nemesis are his assistants. For the same reason, he protects the assembly of the people, the meetings of the council, and as he presides over the whole state, so also over every house and family. He avenged those who were wronged, and punished those who had committed a crime, for he watched the doings and sufferings of all men. He was further the original source of all prophetic power, from whom all prophetic signs and sounds proceeded. Everything good, as well as bad, comes from Zeus, and according to his own choice he assigns their good and evil lot to mortals, and fate itself was subordinate to him. He is armed with thunder and lightning, and the shaking of his aegis produces storm and tempest. A number of epithets of Zeus in the Homeric poems describe him as the thunderer, the gatherer of clouds, and the like. He was married to Hera. Hera sometimes acts as an independent divinity. She is ambitious and rebels against her lord, but she is nevertheless inferior to him, and is punished for her opposition. His amours with other goddesses or mortal women are not concealed from her, though they generally rouse her jealousy and revenge. During the Trojan War, Zeus, at the request of Thetis, favored the Trojans until Agamemnon made good the wrong he had done to Achilles. Zeus, no doubt, was originally a god of a portion of nature, whence the oak, with its eatable fruit, and the fertile doves were sacred to him at Dodona and in Arcadia. But in the Homeric poems, this primitive character of a personification of certain powers of nature is already effaced to some extent, and the god appears as a political and national divinity, as the king and father of men, as the founder and protector of all institutions hallowed by law, custom, or religion. Hesiod also calls Zeus the son of Cronos and Rhea, and the brother of Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Cronos swallowed his children immediately after their birth, but when Rhea was near giving birth to Zeus, she applied to Uranus for advice as to how the child might be saved. Before the hour of birth came, Uranus and Ge sent Rhea to Lyctos in Crete, requesting her to bring up her child there. Rhea accordingly concealed her infant in a cave of Mount Aegaeon, and gave to Cronos a stone wrapped up in cloth, which he swallowed in the belief that it was his son. Other traditions state that Zeus was born and brought up on Mount Dicte, or Ida, Ithome in Messenia, Thebes in Boeotia, or Olinos in Aetolia. According to the common account, however, Zeus grew up in Crete. In the meantime, Cronos, by a cunning device of Ge, was made to bring up the children he had swallowed, and first of all the stone which was afterwards set up by Zeus at Delphi. The young god now delivered the Cyclops from the bonds with which they had been fettered by Cronos, and they, in their gratitude, provided him with thunder and lightning. On the advice of Ge, Zeus also liberated the 100-armed Gigantes, Briareos, Cottus, and Gyes, that they might assist him in his fight against the Titans. The Titans were conquered and shut up in Tartarus, where they were henceforth guarded by the Hecatonchires. Thereupon Tartarus and Ge begot Typhoeus, who began a fearful struggle with Zeus, but was conquered. Zeus now obtained the dominion of the world, and chose Metis for his wife. When she was pregnant with Athena, he took the child out of her body and concealed it in his own, on the advice of Uranus and Ge, who told him that thereby he would retain the supremacy of the world. For if Metis had given birth to a son, this son, so fate had ordained it, would have acquired the sovereignty. After this Zeus, by his second wife Themis, became the father of the Hori and Mori, of the Charites by Eurynome, of Persephone by Demeter, of Apollo and Artemis by Leto, and of Hebe, Eris, and Eileithyia by Hera. Athena was born out of the head of Zeus, while Hera, on the other hand, gave birth to Hephaestus without the cooperation of Zeus. The family of the Chronidae accordingly embraces the 12 great gods of Olympus: Zeus, the head of them all, Poseidon, Apollo, Ares, Hermes, Hephaestus, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Athena, Aphrodite, and Artemis. These 12 Olympian gods, who in some places were worshipped as a body, as at Athens, were recognized not only by the Greeks, but were adopted also by the Romans, who, in particular, identified their Jupiter with the Greek Zeus. In surveying the different local traditions about Zeus, it would seem that originally there were several, at least 3 divinities, which in their respective countries were supreme, but which in the course of time became united in the minds of the people into one great national divinity. We may accordingly speak of an Arcadian, Dodonaean, Cretan, and a national Hellenic Zeus. 1. The Arcadian Zeus was born, according to the legends of the country, in Arcadia, either on Mount Parrhasian or in a district of Mount Lycaon, which was called Cretia. He was brought up there by the nymphs Thiosoa, Nida, and Hagno. The first of these gave her name to an Arcadian town, the second to a river, and the third to a well. Lycaon, a son of Pelasgus, who built the first and most ancient town of Lycosura, called Zeus Lycaeus, and erected a temple and instituted the festival of the Lycaea in honor of him. He further offered to him bloody sacrifices, and among others his own son, in consequence of which he was metamorphosed into a wolf. No one was allowed to enter the sanctuary of Zeus Lycaeus on Mount Lycaon, and there was a belief that if anyone entered it, he died within 12 months after, and that in it neither human beings nor animals cast a shadow. Those who entered it intentionally were stoned to death, unless they escaped by flight, and those who got in by accident were sent to Eleuthera. On the highest summit of Lycaon there was an altar of Zeus, in front of which, toward the east, there were 2 pillars bearing golden eagles. The sacrifices offered there were kept secret. 2. The Dodonaean Zeus possessed the most ancient oracle in Greece, at Dodona in Epirus, near Mount Tomarus, from which he derived his name. At Dodona, Zeus was mainly a prophetic god, and the oak tree was sacred to him. But there, too, he was said to have been reared by the Dodonian nymphs. 3. The Cretan Zeus. We have already given the account of him which is contained in the Theogony of Hesiod. He is the god to whom Rhea, concealed from Cronos, gave birth in a cave of Mount Dicte, and whom she entrusted to the Curetes, and the nymphs Adrastia and Ida, the daughters of Melisius. They fed him with milk of the goat Amalthea, and the bees of the mountain provided him with honey. Crete is called the island or nurse of the great Zeus, and his worship there appears to have been very ancient. Among the places in the island which were particularly sacred to the god, we must mention the district about Mount Ida, especially Nasus, which was said to have been built by the Curetes, and where Minos had ruled and conversed with Zeus. Further, the towns about Mount Dicte, as Lyctos, Praesus, Hierapytna, Bianos, Eleutherinae, and Oxus. 4. The national Hellenic Zeus. There, too, Zeus was regarded as the father and king of gods and men, and as the supreme god of the Hellenic nation. His statue there was executed by Phidias a few years before the outbreak of the Peloponnesian War, the majestic and sublime idea for this statue having been suggested to the artist by the words of Homer. According to the traditions of Elis, Cronos was the first ruler of the country, and in the Golden Age there was a temple dedicated to him at Olympia. Rhea, it is further said, entrusted the infant Zeus to the Idaean Dactyls, who were also called Curetes, and had come from Mount Ida in Crete to Elis. Heracles, one of them, contended with his brother Dactyls in a foot race, and adorned the victor with a wreath of olive. In this manner he is said to have founded the Olympian Games, and Zeus to have contended with Cronos for the kingdom of Elis. The Greek and Latin poets give to Zeus an immense number of epithets and surnames, which are derived partly from the places where he was worshipped, and partly from his powers and functions. He was worshipped throughout Greece and her colonies, so that it would be useless and almost impossible to enumerate all the places. The eagle, the oak, and the summits of mountains were sacred to him, and his sacrifices generally consisted of goats, bulls, and cows. His usual attributes are the scepter, eagle, thunderbolt, and a figure of victory in his hand. The Olympian Zeus sometimes wears a wreath of olive, and the Dodonian Zeus a wreath of oak leaves. In works of art, Zeus is generally represented as the omnipotent father and king of gods and men, according to the idea which had been embodied in the statue of the Olympian Zeus by Phidias.